Okay, so there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, I wanted to ask you briefly whether or not you'd actually looked into any of the interviews that Charlies Sheen has done. I know I'm a little bit behind on the the pop culture, what have you. After I had watched Shmo Yoho's songified version of the interviews, I was curious to actually see them in their entirety and see what... I mean, because mostly I had just heard that he said a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And while that's not exactly false, it's not exactly true either. I think if you listen to what he has to say, he does kind of speak strangely. And he does talk with a lot of non sequiturs, but it's not like what he's saying is nonsense. He's not like, speaking, I don't know, like word salad style, where he's just saying sentences that don't actually make sense. What he's saying does make sense. And I think that maybe, I don't know if he really does believe that he's like this superhuman entity or that he's got tiger blood. But I think, actually it's interesting. I think a lot of the stuff that they addressed in the interview and is actually fairly noble. He they talk about what's going on with 2.5 Men and how he's actually worked really hard to make sure that the production members, like the cameramen, light people, set people, are actually getting paid, because the show got canceled mid-season. So I guess he worked really hard on that. A big deal was made about the fact that now he's living with 2 women, which he refers to as the goddesses. Humorous nomenclature aside, when you see footage of them talking and interacting with his children and interacting with him, I can't help but think it's anything but a loving family environment. Now, I know that a big deal is made about sort of the traditional, let's see if I can get those inside the camera radius, the traditional family, the nuclear family, as it's termed, the husband, wife, and 2 children. And I know that a lot of people freak out about that, but from what I can tell, the way he's raising his children works for him, and it works for them. So until I hear some sort of evidence that, he's favoring one or the other over the other, or, the women are getting into fights, I'm led to believe that it's a fairly workable situation, and perhaps would posit that in our modern age, family, in quotation marks again, no longer requires one father, one mother, and a child. There are plenty of families that are, of course, homosexual, that have 2 fathers or 2 mothers, or perhaps only single parent families that turn out perfectly fine. So it's interesting to me that a big deal, I guess polygamy is still sort of a taboo subject, and something that people don't really like to talk about, because it's generally thought to be unworkable. Usually it's portrayed as, of course, and this, feeds into other stereotypes, but of course the male, wanting to have sex with as many partners as possible, thus the multiple wives, and it's really like a slavery thing, or something, an oppression on females, where, I don't know, maybe that is the case in some polygamous relationships, but I'm not exactly certain that that's always the case in all polygamous relationships. In fact, I'm almost certain that it's probably not, but I have no proof for this because I haven't done a lot of research into polygamy. So that was the first thing I wanted to address, the whole Charlies Sheen thing. And also, I'm pretty sure that if he did, in fact, pound 7-gram rocks almost every day, that does, while it makes you a very sick person, and a very sadly, drug-addled person, it also kind of makes you a total freaking rock star from Mars. That's about the only thing I wanted. Oh, there are a couple of groups that I wanted to bring to your attention. The first is White Lies, which they're band like VNV Nation. They have that sort of epic vocal quality. They have the lyrical stylings of probably something a little bit more closer to Interpol, where a lot of their lyrics are, they feel more like they're sort of obscurely attributed to relationships. And musically, I feel like they're doing what She Wants Revenge wanted to do, except, as you know, I'm not a fan of She Wants Revenge, and I feel like this band does it accurately. Secondly, oh, right, the other one that I told you about, my God, who has completely left my brain. Keiko Matsui was the name I was looking for. Who does these, I guess you could, I don't like to generally attribute things to being cheesy, because cheesy automatically makes sort of an assumption and a judgment call, and it's almost always a negative one. But I guess you could call them these sort of cheesy 80s jazz albums. They have that like soaring soprano saxophone. But I find them really, really good. Like, they're so perfect and so, they're such a good example of the genre that it's really, really awesome. Also, for some reason, they remind me a lot of video game music. In particular, I don't know, they have a quality of evoking ideas or themes or scenes that are commonly occurrent in video game music. Like, there'll be one song and it'll be like, oh, this is like the sneaking into the mansion at night song. And then there'll be another one, and this is the epic, battle song, and there's another one, and this is like the, jazzy nightclub song, where the main characters, meet the smoking hot babe who, is really good looking, but also very strong and can, equip two-handed swords for some reason. The closest, musically, I don't know if you're familiar with the music from Breath of Fire 3, but it was strongly influenced by that sort of classic, sort of smooth jazz sound. But also some of the non-epic tracks on the Lunar soundtrack kind of remind me of it too. So that's all for music, I think. Music, Charlies Sheen. That's about all I had to say. So, Matt, it is Sunday. You're right. It is important to have a good sign out. And alas, I don't have one, so I guess I'll see you around. That seems kind of lame. Matt, I'll see you around.